Alright, I told you to be around 66 before I did it. So
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of like, this is not, and Martin Armstrong, that everyone likes to quote, he fills his reports full of bullshit, and then he looks at this, and he doesn't say what he's looking at. Okay, so the low of that became another high. Alright, so it stretched a little bit there. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Fair enough? About there. So now we're kind of, that's located on that high, and this is located on this high, and the next time of interest was here. Okay? And the high came in a little bit after that. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit more, but I could drag it to the right. We'll just stretch it just at around 68 or 69 months. 68, say. Okay, so now you're going from low to breakout to high to high to high to high. I'll just drag it a little bit more closer to where, okay? And we put in, what did we put in here? We don't know yet. But we're kind of like in the area for making a high. So there is a real reason for saying that these levels, it might have another attempt to get up to them, but it probably won't.
Yeah, it seems highly unlikely based on
You
the
see what I'm
pattern.
saying? Because when you're in the middle of these areas, you're plumbing the depths down here, and down here, and down here, and down here. You see where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going? All right, so let me
Yeah.
just turn that cycle up. I've done 69, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how does it look now?
Uh,
Low,
it's low, low, low.
low, to
Yeah.
low, to low. All right, so what are the odds? What are the odds you'd like to play on the gold-silver ratio? Well, the gold-silver ratio, you'd say, I'd like to trade the gold-silver ratio. I'd like to be short it, that is to say, long silver and short gold. But I'd like to be putting my trades on when this thing here is as high as possible. And down here is the bottom of a short-term move. So if you want to get the longest ride, do you jump on a bus that's nearly at the destination, or do you jump on a bus that's just leaving the station?
You
If you
wait.
want the longest ride, you basically say to yourself, I want to journey this down to here somewhere, but I want to jump on board up here somewhere or here.
Yeah.
So the tradable move, the first sudden move is in. To expect it to accelerate down like this, well, it could. It might. I mean,
Yeah.
there's an example there. It could shoot down and then come back up and go sideways and go down again. But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not the way to trade.
Yeah.
The way to trade is to wait it comes back here and everyone is squeaking and then go, but I know it's going down into here. Sort of, kind of, roughly, approximately, you know. And
Yeah.
once again, that's the problem everyone gets ties themselves up in knots because they start looking at day charts and intraday charts and they're not working to that time frame at all, really.
Okay.
Now there's an 11 year on this. I'll put it on it and we'll actually see. I don't really see much, but I'll just put it on it. But remember, the gold-silver ratio being bullish for silver does not mean the metals can't hit new lows. Right, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hook this up every second one of these guys. Do you see that? I'm going in every two. You see that?
Yeah.
Right, now just kind of about. And now I'm going to drag it and I'm going to line this low here over here. And you'll notice that when I start sort of saying maybe this low is of importance, not that one, you find that we catch a low here, and we catch a high here, and we catch a low kind of here, and there's a high area here which we didn't catch, but is between these, and this is why you shouldn't be too precise about these things. And then we find that this one here is actually sort of saying, yeah, that should be a low area. So what this is really telling us is the chances of a pullback here, but it could be there and there with a dip in between them, must be respected.
Mm-hmm.
Now what does that mean? That means the gold to silver ratio is probably not going to come crashing down anytime soon. It's more likely to be trading sideways here, making a high, making a low, making a high. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a trading range in the gold-silver ratio, what might it look like? It might look something like this. How long did that last? Well, that lasted from 1993. Well, it was sort of done with by 1996. So 3 years going sideways, making range trading opportunities. And then after the next kind of big turn, which could be that one, then you accelerate down. Well, that's 2020. That's a long way away. I'd say it's more likely to kind of have an opportunity for us around here or here. That's the end of 2017, and that's end of 2018, start of 2019, which, you know. But people who are looking for, hey, my moment has come in silver, well, yeah, I hope they're all happy. I hope it works out for them, but like, I won't be placing my money on that particular bet. Now, if I just do this that way, now we're syncing with this low, now we're syncing with this high, now we're syncing with this high, and we're proposing that every second turn in this smaller one is more important. And if you check it out, you find that every second turn in the smaller one kind of is important. See? A bigger low, a bigger high. It was making a huge low area here, and we got a high in the middle of that bearishness.
Mm-hmm.
See? So, what are we doing? We're knocking on the doors of the upper ceiling here. So there's actually, if you think about it, there's two cycles going here, and I'm going to put the two of them on. But if I didn't explain that to you like earlier, it might not make sense. Okay, so let's just show the two of them. This one, yeah? And about there. Somewhere around there. If I'm doing it right, that should line up with that bar there. Yeah, it's close enough. And then that one lines up with this low here before it took off. And all of a sudden you start to see more of the turns being fleshed in that were coming. We have a gap. There's our next target. Now I think we go sideways. I think we pull back. Then I think we say hello to down here. Then I think we kind of wind our way back up to here. And by then, this one here is going to be controlling us. So this one might suck that one up kind of a bit more sharply. Then we come down. Then we come back up again to make a high around here. Then we go down to say a low down here. Then we come back up there. Then we go down to there. Can you see the?
Yeah, the pattern.
Yeah, I've just done the next 10 years. Are you happy?
Nice. Well, that's the comparison just for the silver to gold ratio on what the
Yeah,
highs and the lows will be in on that particular.
that does not say that silver is going to be making, like I say, the metals themselves have to turn around.
Yeah.
And they're turning around, and everyone is sort of saying they've turned around. But you know what? A long-term low has been made. A long-term retest has to be made, in my view. I'm telling my guys that this is a rally to be making the money out of. We got in long in last August. We got in again in December. And I'm going to be sort of saying, bring your stops up now, because it's making highs between now and June, either in May or June probably. And we'll be taking our profits, going back to residual holdings and battening down the hatches until we have a new low to buy again at.
Have you guys uh, just have you looked at anything like just AG or
What are
uh,
you looking for?
SWL, or have you looked at it? I typically keep
What do you
those
want?
on my
Agnico Eagle?
uh
Franklin, Nevada? AG?
I think AG. I mean
Or
AG.
First Majestic?
Yeah, First Majestic. Yeah, have you ever?
Yeah,
They're always on my on one of my on my
right.
watches whenever I go to
See,
Microsoft. They show
there's
up.
First Majestic on a weekly, okay? So
Hmm.
I made it a bit small, so let's make it bigger again. We should put it back the way it was. And we get them nice. Okay, so now we can see these things, right?
Yeah, they
Okay, so the question then is, it has broken up. Okay, so the first thing to do is say, what's a trading range for Agnico Eagle?
hmm
Okay, well, there's two levels. There's a trading range from here to here
hmm
and here to here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's one trading range, and there's another trading range. Okay? But there's another trading range which is half of that. And the half trading range I would describe as from there to there was half of it, and from there to there was half of it.
Mm-hmm.
And from there to there was half of it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to divide this into halves. Yeah? And I'm also going to divide it into thirds or quarters, depending on what the stock says to me, of which this is 1 unit. You
Correct.
see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to do it. Okay? So I'm taking off the all-time high, but that might not be correct. I might have to drop it down to this level. All right? I'm just going to split it up into fractions. And this is working on the assumption. If this fits nicely, it'll be suggesting that that this first majestic is not going to hit new lows. And if it doesn't fit nicely, I'll be saying we're hitting new lows, right? So what do we see? Remember I said halves, quarters, and thirds?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where's the half line? The half
Right
line
there.
comes in there, and at the top here. So the half line worked. So it went down there, bounced off that twice, came up, went through it on a fast move, came back to it, and stalled. And anyone who's watching day charts became a bull there. And anyone who's watching weekly or monthly charts says, that's not a breakout yet. Okay, so now let's look at the other units. Remember I said the other units I'll be looking at? Okay, so how much is this? There's 25% to 50%. So that's a quarter. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's a quarter here, from there to there, from red line to red line.
Okay.
It spiked through it. Okay, the spike was actually contained by the next line. Okay, well, it was kind of just a spike. Okay, so then where's the next quarter? From there, bounce, 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 jumps through. Okay, and you move a quarter down, and it bounced. So is this working on this? Yes, this is working on this. Is it trading this way? Absolutely. Does that go against all the news coming out of the market, the banks, the this, the that, the other? No, it
Yeah.
includes all that.
Yeah.
So where's it going to stop?
12.
I think it's going to go to 12. I would say it's going to get to 1170, 1180, say 1168, and stall.
Yeah. Then it's going to come back and test down.
It might not quite get there. I mean, it might stop at this level here at 10, but it's kind of there already, actually. Wow. Okay, but it's more likely, having got through the red, it's more likely to saunter on and say hello to the green, just for a moment. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't quite get there. Okay, so look for other episodes. Starts at the red, goes through the red. Where does it stop? The next line.
Yeah.
Okay, so this might seem incredibly simplistic, but there's an awful lot more to it than just saying. Bottom line is, it's gone from the red. It went to the red. It got through it. It didn't get quite close enough to this one here for me to be happy yet. I think we're kind of coming down to here and going up to there, and then we're coming down to here.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go anywhere in a straight line. So is it all done yet? Well, I don't know if it's done yet. I mean, I could put trend lines on this and see where they land up. But, I mean, let's try. So, what's the smart Alt T, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so it's in a bear market. We went down and we broke support, so it's in a bear market. Has it stopped being in a bear market?
No.
No, it's below the blue line. It's still in a bear market. Does it have a long way to go before it gets out of this bear market? Yeah, it sure does have a long way to go. That amount of decline is hurtful. It does serious damage. Okay, so let's take a shorter term view. Yeah, after it did that, it was in a bear market. What happened when it came up to the blue line? It stalled and traded down along it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's take a less bearish view. What happened when it got up to the blue line? It stalled along it, came down again. Eventually worked its way through. Same as it eventually worked its way through this one. It'll eventually work its way through this one, but only after getting up there and trading down along it, and then going through. It's not going to do it in one go. And we're so far, looking at this should give you a bit of maturity about when this is all going to happen. Having said that, is there plenty of time to make money in it? Absolutely. Look at all those gigantic moves during that space of time, and that's the space of time it's going to take to get to here. So you could say to yourself, take all that trading range, shove it in here, and there's all those opportunities. And what will people call that? Well, I would call that building a base to get out of the bear market. But people will call that a new bull market. Then they'll call it a bear market. Then they'll call the next swing a bull market. They will think in their short-termism that there's maybe 5 bull markets and bear markets before we get to that blue line.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just building a base, a gigantic one. And when it has that gigantic base built, that will propel it to heights that we can't imagine.
Yeah, it'll go back up to around the 20s, 30s once it.
Oh gosh, no, it'll go way beyond those levels.
Oh wow.
When, but like, look how long it's going to take for it to happen. Let me
Yeah.
say, at what price will we break through that? I mean, what price? Let's say we break through it at this level. Let's say there's the 50%. Let's say we get to it there and we take off. That would presuppose that we made a bottom back here. Well, 2018 is 2.5 years away.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Am I in a rush? No. Will I buy the lows? Absolutely. Will I sell the highs? Well, kind of if it got up a little bit higher, I'd be looking to sell a bit. But I'm really interested in accumulating at the lows.
Yeah, I was talking with someone a few months ago, and we were looking at it. And I was saying, "Oh, this stuff is really low," and I think he bought like 500 shares at like $2 or something like that, and he said, yesterday, Friday, he said, "Yeah, man, I sold it because it's gone up."
Happy. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
anyone who's in gold mines for the last 6 weeks now has been very well treated by the market.
yeah.
What was the other one you were asking about?
Let's see here. That was them, and here, let me give you the. Let me go to money. That was the name. It's in here. I was looking at I said that one, but that's not really CDE.
Coeur
That's
d'Alene.
Coeur. Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's Coeur Mining now, isn't it? But it's Coeur d'Alene, just under a different name.
yeah.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Have it here somewhere. Okay, there's Coeur.
I got AG. I had SVM, but they went bankrupt. So it was in my watch list, but they've been
But
there
that
for a
wasn't a,
while.
that wasn't a Vino Mines. What was SVM?
I can't remember. Like I said, I got them. I got SA up there too, and SASVM and CDE and
SVM.
AG.
Must have cleared them out of my database.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
they're
see them
gone.
here.
It's like blank. It reminds me of what was the name? It was some bank back during the crisis that I had brought something on, and they went bankrupt, and it went blank like that too, and they stole everybody's money.
Wonderful. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway, there's Coeur d'Alene. Okay, putting up on the big picture.
Okay.
The very big, it's a bit of history on that. That's quarterly. So it doesn't really want to go below these levels, which is nice to know. And there's like a gigantic gap between it and up here, which is where it's going to stall. So there's massive upside if it can climb off the floor. Jumping a bit bigger, monthly. I'd say the bottom's in. Possibly.
Yeah, they look more consistent.
If I put that on log, we'll actually see the bottom of it a bit more ease. We can't really, now we can see. So it was making new lower lows. Okay, it has to make a simultaneous low or a higher low before it really gets into the I'm making new highs territory. But it's getting ready to preparatory to rallying before it makes the next low out here somewhere. How far are those lows apart on average? Let's just see. Let's see. I don't know. Let's just measure these ones here and just see what they were. 85. I'm in months here, okay? So 85 months apart. You see 80 months, 80 months, 80
Yeah.
months, okay? So 2022, it'll be kind of time to come along to Core and try and make your million, because it's going to take off like a scalded cat after that if it's still around. Okay, but 80 months is a bit of a long time to be hanging around waiting for anything. So let's
Yeah.
take off the high and look at what happens in every 40 months, okay? So was I at 80? We were looking at 84. So let's say try 41 or something, 42 or something like that. Uh, okay, so about there. Now, so we get a low, we get another low, we get another low, we get another low, we get another low. You buy every 40 months. You sell every 20 months. Okay, so about there. So your selling points are the highs here. That would have worked out nicely there, wouldn't it? Your
Yeah.
buying points are down here. There's your next selling point. So if you happen to be in core, you hang on in there and you sort of say, I'll run most of this year in it. But when I get to January 2017, i.e. the end of this year, I will say thank you very much, so long, and thanks for all the fish, and I'll come back later.
Makes sense.
But it's not precisely that. Roughly, approximately, kind of, sort of. You gotta use your head, you know, not sort of say there is a cycle there and it says wait for a certain date.
Yeah. You gotta keep an eye on
No.
some of the things of what's going on. Yeah, I did.
Well, if you were waiting for that cycle high there, you really should have sold several months before. You just gotta use your noggin, you know. So I kind of like it's a bullish year for miners, and the lows in May, or sorry, the highs in May will probably run down to the lows in June. Then we run up into July. Then we come down into August. We bounce into September. We have a chance of a low in September, October, and then we run up to the Christmas with a kind of a sudden drop somewhere along the way, and I don't know exactly where it is on the way. That's core. What's the next one?
uh, let's see here. I got.
Kamenak.
I
Do you
got.
want some? Do you want something good? Okay, so let's try Denison. I don't know what they're looking like. Do you look at the Canadian or the American?
It's whatever's on. This.
Well, you're looking at the Toronto Exchange, aren't you?
No, I'm looking at. I'm just using MSN right now. Just
Okay, so you're looking at it in dollars. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay. Yeah, but it looked different in Canadian. Okay, so here's Denison Mines. Um, and the interesting thing about it is it's made a new low, but kind of it wasn't. Sort of the middle bit was a much higher low than the one we're just looking at. Okay, but does it look all bullish and hunky all of a sudden? Yeah, absolutely not. If you're looking at the big picture, but
Hmm.
if you're looking at the medium term picture, and here it comes, that's a base. There's a base.
Hmm.
Okay, now,
Wow.
right, so let's put it on log. Actually, it is on log, isn't it? So now I'm stretching out the base. The problem with it is we just made a lower low. The good news is, how long does it take to make our lower low? It took from 2009 to 2016. It took 7 years to get any lower than there. I would propose that in 7 years' time it will fail to get lower than this. But that means that in sort of 3 or 4 years we should be looking to kind of do nicely on this. Now, how many swings were there off the last low? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got it?
Hmm.
Okay, and the vertical ones were the first ones, and the gaps between them got longer as it became more obvious what was going on. There was more whipsawing to get people out. Okay, so we're looking for 5 swings. We're in the first one. So we're kind of around here or around here, maybe there. But it doesn't look, it kind of looks titchy when you build the base and you sort of say, there's a base.
Yeah. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is that does that say 60 cents? Wow.
By the way, why is this doing that? This is uranium as well, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 60 cents? 61 cents, yeah.
Okay.
60 cent is a stalling point. 60 cent will stop markets when they hit it. Um,
Um,
so if I put a line at 61 cent on this, and then I just bring in a load of history, Let's just go out of this. Put on the monthly so it's easier to see. We can see back forever now. There you go. In 60, it stopped it back there.
So they went.
First month of the rally, it kind of bounced off it there at 62. Yeah, what you were saying?
I was just saying. Oh, so they went OTC, right? They went from wherever they were at. They went to OTC, over the counter, right?
Well, if you want another uranium, or do you want to keep looking at the precious metals, the silvers? We could look at Lundin. We could look at Stillwater. Platinum group metals. Platinum group metals bounced up really strongly, and it's coming back now.
Okay. What about Pan America?
Pan America, PAAS.
Yeah. What are they doing? I haven't.
I'm sure it's taken off like a scalded cat. Here it is. Here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put it on percentage first and just see how it looks on percentage basis. I mean, it looks brilliant. But like, would I buy it today? Absolutely not. Would I like to have bought it a couple of months ago? Absolutely. All right. So it's got through the old lows. There's the old low there. There's the old low. It's above that. All good news. Okay. Now the question is, can it make a new high? Well, the last thing it did was made a new low. So to make a new high is demanding. You understand what I'm saying? So to get past here would be incredibly demanding of it. It would require great buying power. So if it was getting to 16.08 or 15, 16, anywhere near 16, I'd be saying to myself, you know, there's probably not much more on the upside in this. I would rather take most of my money off the table and run my profits as a freebie, or take it all off the table and look for something better to do.
Yeah.
But does that mean I'm going away and never buying this thing again if it comes down again? Absolutely not. I'm just waiting to buy it again.
Yeah.
When it comes down again, hopefully if. And if it doesn't, I go, well, I missed that one. Once again, if you try and find a trading range on this little sucker, there's your average rally. Here's your average rally. Does it look about the same?
Yeah.
Okay, here's an average rally. Does that look the same? It's harder to see because it's stretched out in time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put it on log and we'll see these in percentage terms. Right. So 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, 4 boxes. Okay. Now each box is the same percentage wise. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Okay. We go down a bit below this one to a bit below that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this rally is bigger than that rally and bigger than that rally, which is basically saying the bear market's over. But it's got to come down again to take off again.
Yeah.
So you say, where does it have to come down to? Well, that's a tougher question. I kind of like this area here, somewhere around here. You know, sitting on top of that area there, maybe. But like, if it came all the way down, like, I'd go, you know, well, who would have thought, you know? But like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because then if it comes all the way down, then you know that's your entry point. At least instinctively, it should be.
Well, the entry point that is based on it coming down further is the one that happens when it comes down and hits this line here, and then takes off. You know, I mean, it's also coincidental with that level if it happens soon, but if it happens later, like out here, it's coincidental with this level, and if it happens really late out here, it becomes coincidental with this level, but maybe not break it.
How many years is that out? I can't see that bottom part.
It's not November 2016 just at the moment, but that would be kind of like, that would be stretching it. That would be sort of saying we're in a new bear market, or we're in a bear market again. I don't think we are, because we just saw a bigger rally than all the other rallies.
Yeah.
So when you see bigger rallies, that's telling you the bears are running out of steam. But this is on a percentage chart. Remember it's on log scale.
Yeah,
so the sawtooth to the downside look bigger, and the sawtooth to the upside look smaller. So this chart intentionally has been made so it looks more bearish. by
Okay.
choosing log. Okay, switch log off, all of a sudden it looks more bullish again. We can see a big fishing line hanging down, leveling off, and when we get to the point where it's level, that's when we want to be long.
Okay.
Kind of, kind of around there, here or here, you can actually just picture your fishing line drooping down. You can see it in your mind. Okay, and if it gets below your fishing line, you say, okay, I thought I was bullish, but I'll wait. I'm selling out again. I'll wait again. That's what stops are for.
Okay.
Is
That's
there
good information.
is there a rhythm in it? Yeah, there's a rhythm in it. I can see it from here. Um, can I highlight it without?
It looked like
I
that
don't know.
last.
Maybe I can. I'll see if I can highlight it. Okay. High to low between two highs to an absolute low. Okay. Next target way out there, which just happens to be the same as all the other charts we were looking at. Why?
Mm-hmm.
This is 81 weeks. We were looking at 81 months. Okay. So 4 of these makes up the target we were looking at on the other chart, on the other stock. So there's more opportunities in this, you know. And why is it going up when it's gone past the time? Because we're running upside down now. Okay. So if this is a low and that was a low between two highs, and this became an absolute low between two highs. Okay. You're basically saying the next opportunity is here. Well, will that be a high or a low? Depends. The answer is we don't know. Wait and see. Use your stops. If it comes down into there, yeah, wait, that's a nice thing. Go for to go along. If it goes up into here, you go, oh, this isn't good. It's going to go down towards here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the rhythm that happens to be there. Don't argue with it. It just is what happens to be there. And there are several others I can see right now, but it's the one to pay attention to.
Okay.
But that it doesn't. You understand that I am not saying. I'm saying that it tells you nothing about direction. You understand what I'm saying there? The direction of those turns on that line are not saying that's a bottom and that's a high and that's a bottom. That's what
Okay.
they were. All it's saying is that's the moment in time when the guys that have been pushing it in one direction run out of push, and the
Okay.
guys that want to push it in the other direction will start to win. So you look for signs of exhaustion when you get to those times. You
And
don't
that's
see
in
exhaustion.
2018. So they're
Yeah,
gonna they're gonna be pushing a little bit longer.
yeah, sort of. Yeah, but it's on a weekly, it's not on a monthly or a quarterly, so it's kind of not too far out.
Okay.
But you remember that I mentioned to you already about September this year being an interesting time? Notice that that turning point is in September this year.
Okay.
By the way, it's also a turning time for stocks in the larger market. But I did say something to you about. Oh, well, I'm hogging this. I better shut up here. There's other people.
No, 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 no. I was just, you're doing fine.
No, okay. Well, what metals are you interested in? Is it just gold and silver?
Yeah, I'm kind of more or less just looking at those. As far as myself, we kind of, you know, well, personally myself, if I'm gonna look, then I'm gonna kind of look at one area that I think that has potential, and then I'll look at it, and I usually don't buy, but I just look, and then I noticed that that the metals did look, the silver miners did look pretty cheap a few months ago.
And they
And
did, yeah.
a couple guys, like I said, they I think they got 500 shares or 600 shares each, and now
Well,
they've done
in
considerably well with that.
in 2009, how long did it take? In 2008, how long did it take to give the next buying point after the low?
I'm
The
not sure.
answer is
I
the answer is
bought.
November 2008 to March 2009. Okay,
Yeah. It was February
so it's four.
2009 actually when I
So it was
bought.
3 to 4 months. So it was a quarter, if you like to call it that, a quarter and a bit. Okay, right. So we've already got a low in January 2016. This is BHP Billiton. So we're talking about copper and zinc and stuff like that.
Oh, BHP, yeah, they also do
Yeah.
oil too.
So yeah, it's a mixed bag of commodity metal related stuff and iron and
Hmm.
whatnot. Okay, so if you stay from January and you sort of say 4 months, we should be kind of hoping for a new entry point. Okay, that would take us around to the 18th of May, middle of May or something like that. So
Hmm.
that would suggest, wouldn't it, that this is likely to come off. That's seen a nice bit of a rally. Well, will it come off that fast? Has it hit an overhead resistance? So it's hit this level and this level, and it's below that level. It's at it, so it hasn't got through it. So I would say that is finely balanced. So what happened there when we got on this rally? We got sharply up, pull back, sharply up, two pull back, and up, and then down it came in a very, very ziggy zaggy move.
Hmm.
This is a much cleaner rally, but these are pullback there. Our pullback came all in one go, whereas in this case it was kind of very straggly. So I don't know. It's doing it differently, but I would suggest that it has a little bit of time to kill and a little bit of price to lose over a couple of weeks, and then see what happens. Is it at a buying point or is it high? In the long term, it's at a buying point, but in the medium term, you might say, I don't like taking losses.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think they're gonna. I don't know how well they did with their oil and gas division, but I do know that they're shedding like everybody else in that industry. That's what's been a big topic is that that's made a lot of big news around the world is that Halliburton laid off 1/3 of their staff. If you want, if, that was pretty big news for a lot of people. I noticed that hit a lot of headlines, and it was
Hmm.
up there. Um, that's I haven't looked at their stock even, but Jesus Christ, that's quite a bit.
Tell you who's been buying heavy is FFM, First Mining Finance.
Hmm.
Um, that they've been snapping up a lot of bargains at low levels. So Siren, okay, there you go. I mean, I could throw an awful lot more out. It's like throwing kind of mud at a wall, to see what sticks. Um, the commodity ones, uranium, silver, copper. I didn't put up a copper one. I don't know if I have a proper copper one. How about copper futures? Okay, so let's see what we got. Wake up. Um, Aluminium, coal, copper, copper. There we go. Okay, have you guys got my screen at the moment, or is it switched off? Is it gone off again?
Yeah, it went off.
Wait a second, I'll get it back on again. Nope, it's thinking. Let me know when you get it back. Seems to take a minute or two.
It's back.
Okay, takes a minute or two to wake up. Okay, so let's go for the long term because this you got sovereigns dealing in this and gigantic corporations. So on quarterly basis, okay, I'll stretch that out a bit. Who wants to trade on quarterly charts? Well, if you're trading the futures, I would suggest it might be a bad idea. Unless you got extremely deep pockets. But you could be buying the stuff and throwing it in your back garden and waiting for time to change. Okay, well, the first thing we can see is that the sovereigns and the large corporations are indeed playing 5-year plans in this. So how do I know that? Well, I just do a quickie here. Let's see, just basic. Okay, take from that low to there to that low there, yeah. Okay, how many lows can we catch just in double quick time without killing ourselves? So we got a low, we got a low, we got a kind of a low knocking around here. There's a low before it takes off. Here's a low here. Does that look like a low? No, it's kind of disappointing, but maybe things turned upside down there, maybe they didn't. And they are 20 quarters apart. So that would be 5 years, 4 fives, a quarter. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're kind of looking at the 5 year and we're sort of saying, what way is it looking? Well, on a rough and ready basis, we'd be saying, I kind of want to be looking at around 2018. We were halfway from the last turning point there, and we've gone down into it. So if this little thing has turned upside down, now is the time. So if these guys have 2.5 years into the next 5 year uh, kind of, let's call it their 5 year plan or whatever they're doing. So if they have 2.5 years into it decided to kind of kickstart the machine again, as it were, then we would then have to take this and move it and say to ourselves, let's see if I can get that to kind of come off. All right, and we'd be saying it's now. You see that? See that the big high there? I'm now locating it on that. You see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right. So we say to ourselves, that's an interesting point in time. I'm going to locate it on that. And how does it look when I do that? And okay. Obviously, we have curve fitted it to fit this low we're just coming out of. Once again on a quarterly chart, and we're sort of saying, there's a high. Did this catch a turning point? Well, not really. Did this one? Well, it was kind of low around that time. Not ideal. So the points of interest on this, and we could look at this in micro. I don't know that it's very wise on something that's controlled by countries. Like if China or America wants the price of this thing to go up by $1 next week, it doesn't matter where your stops are. They're going to get what they want.
Mhm.
You're just on the bus, and the question is, how much do you damage yourself while you're jumping off? So the thing to do is to say to yourself, when would they do this? And one is, as in 2 or 3 months ago, and the next time to be aware of would be in 2 years' time, or
Mhm.
slightly less than that now. So if they have made a bottom, this thing has gone up for a couple of years, net rise. With a possibility of a couple of things going kind of funny on the way, but there is the possibility of a decent swing getting going. Now, try to tell me, are there many people that are bullish in copper at the moment? I don't know that there's many bullish people. There has been a big rally. Doesn't look much on this chart. But if you look at copper, I mean, if I call up a day chart, you're going to go, wow, here's
Mhm.
the day chart. Doesn't look as good as silver, though, does it?
No.
It still hasn't. It still, you see, silver has jumped out of its jumped out of its box, as it were. This thing here is still confined in the box. There's an area there, kind of around there, around there. Copper came back to it and couldn't get through it, and it's coming back to it again. So copper is getting ready. Now the question is, will copper do it? Because if copper does it, it's game on, and we say hello to up here, which takes BHP Billiton and a lot of copper related. And in those circumstances, it becomes interesting to think of the companies that mine silver and copper together, if you're looking
Yeah.
at miners. So what companies would dig out silver and copper related to each other? I'm trying to think of, I'm not thinking of one. If somebody has a good suggestion, let me know. There's an awful lot of them get silver along with their copper. Hecla is almost pure silver. Um, you really
What
say,
about let's see, I'm trying to think. There
is
was
Organa still in business? They used to get it that way. Um, I mean, they were getting hammered. They had a big lawsuit and everything. Kind of. Okay, looking at the super long term, okay, hammer along the bottom. Absolutely devastated. Okay, jumping to weekly from that. Okay, doesn't look nice, does it? Let's put it on log terms and see how people are doing really. There's a rally. Did it get out of the box? It got out of the first box. There's the area there, straight through it. Where's the next one? Up here somewhere. Is it too high to buy? Probably. Is it too low to sell? That's not high enough to sell. It's an example of a recovery from a deeply oversold situation. which is not completed yet. Uh, the time to deal in these things is when they're at the edges of their box,
Okay.
and it's three-quarters way up. So if it got higher, would you sell it? I don't know. I'm not into selling these things. But if it came down again, I'd look at a leveraged buy. Now, when you say, aren't miners leveraged enough? And I go, yeah, miners are so leveraged, they're terrifying. But on a secondary test on a low, that might be a time to look at warrants. You know, I know you could say options, but options decay to nothing. Warrants take longer to decay.
Hmm.
You could buy an option, and it could take a couple of years, but yeah, a leap. I don't know that you'd get it in this particular stock.
Well,
By
as
the way,
far as like warrants, and I'm
yeah,
not familiar with warrants personally. Um, what purpose do they serve?
very
Just
thin
so.
markets. Well, the directors are paying themselves in warrants. So what's happening is the directors are issuing. When the directors issue, when they refinance, they issue maybe a billion new shares, and everyone who has load of shares gets absolutely stiffed because their percentage ownership goes down.
Okay.
So they refinance. It's basically the same as getting a loan out of the bank, except they got the loan out of new shareholders. What you had done
Ah.
to yourself was what the government does to you when they print a load of fresh money, and the money in your
Oh.
pocket becomes worth less.
Ah. Okay. It's
Okay?
kind of like a reverse stock split or something like
That's
that.
why I don't. That's why I don't like miners. That's why I don't like stocks in general, especially miners, because they've been bled of cash during the bad period, and now they
Hmm.
need to refinance. So they're doing two things. They're selling every bit of metal they can get out of the ground. They're selling it forward,
Hmm.
um, and all these conspiracy guys that are looking at the open interest are saying open interest is sky high. The banks are selling paper, gold, and silver. Of course, the banks are doing that. But you know who else is doing it? The miners are doing it. Why? Because they haven't got tuppence to rub together. They got loan repayments to meet, and the staff probably haven't been paid in the last 6 weeks. So yeah,
Hmm.
they'll do two things. They'll float a whole bundle of stock as soon as the price of the stock gets up, and they'll as soon as the metal's off the floorboards, they'll sell a load of forward production. So that's got to work its way out. That's what's capping it at the moment. It's the banks, and the banks will leverage up what the miners sell them. So the miners sell. Miner A is almost hitting bankruptcy. The metal bounces off the floor. They sell the next 5 years worth of metal. The bank takes that, turns it into 20 years worth of metal, and sells it into the futures market, thereby capping the metal even more. So they're both at it together, and you can rely on the miners to screw you when it comes to selling stock, freshly created stock, as soon as they get the opportunity.
Yeah,
Depend on them;
yeah, yeah.
they will do it. Um, unless you pick a particularly incompetent miner and bet on it going bust, or unless you pick a suitably incompetent miner and depend on it not recognizing the top, and they start buying their stock back in when the market is making highs. Does that sound like the general stock market? Why, it does. you know. So like,
Well,
trivialize it, but
yeah, it's that compounds a lot of problems. If they're buying forward,
yeah.
I was
But that one,
unaware. I figured they
that
would, in order to survive. A lot of guys were probably selling stock and selling stock forward or selling stocks or whatever. But I didn't know that they were basing it actually off of the forward price. Yeah, that's kind of counterproductive. But they've got cash flow issues. There's a lot of companies that's got cash flow issues
here's
as
one that had
well.
a bit of cash flow issues, but it's been going sideways while everyone else is shooting up. You see this one? Pretium. Okay, they were looking very sick for a while, and while a lot of the others have been scorching off, these guys have been going sideways. But they got out of this little box here, but they're not out of this one.
Hmm.
So there is a target on them now. Okay, the downside is magnified because I have log on. Let me just put it back to arithmetic. Now you can see it in uh, proper form. And the bear market, which is coming along there, has been broken. Okay, you see it
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, the bear market that was coming down here has been broken. Okay, So Pretium has a base built, it has a higher low in place. Presumably one is resolved not to ride it down. Then buying lows become interesting because a base is in place and a higher low is in place with the opportunity to ride it up. But can
Hmm.
one buy it now to ride it up? Only by taking great dangers and chances. The interesting point was back here, or whenever it comes out here, if and when that happens.
Okay. Now let me ask you something else. As far as like when you're looking at when you do trades, and I know you guys can use euros and other currencies as well. Um, have you ever leveraged that or used that to an advantage? 'Cause I don't think in the U.S. we can actually say, all right, I'm going to get say whatever CAD and then it goes up 30% and then you leverage that. I don't know if you
No, the
have
banks
that.
do that. The banks do that, but they go bust all the time. I mean, leverage
Okay.
trading on. Everyone wants to trade with leverage. No one wants to
Hmm.
trade with cash. Everyone wants to trade with leverage, and they all go, "I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow," and then they lose their thousands that they had today.
Ah,
Leverage is a poison pill.
okay.
It's actually acknowledging that that's the truth and swallowing that bitter pill and saying, "I must trade slower and more gently without leverage." That is what everyone cannot stomach. That because unfortunately that's reality. Now, you can go for it and you can put the leverage on, and you'll hear the stories. I've been trading 10 weeks, or I've been trading 5 years, and I made this, that, and the other.
Yeah,
Most
there's
of these
always
people,
the exceptions.
most of these people who say this on the internet are just full of shit.
Oh,
They're
okay.
just liars. You know, and if they aren't, remember that the 10,000 who lost everything are not actually in there waving their success in your face. They're skulking around or they're long gone.
Yeah.
So It's a classic example of like the state lottery, where they run the winner up the flagpole and say, "Look at this! Wow, look at this!"
Yeah.
And the other kind of 5 million people who lost 100% of what they spent on their lottery ticket, they're not getting so much coverage.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. But
So
that's the
leverage is like
reality of
that.
it.
Yeah, well, leverage is that way.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to take a. I don't know what to think. I mean, it's far more interesting switching from asset to asset.
Yeah.
Like if you sort of say I'm not going to use leverage. How can I do what these big guys are doing? The answer is you can't.
Can.
Well, you never could because they can borrow money at 0% and you can't.
Yeah.
So if you start leveraging, you've got interest rates involved and you're going behind from the word go. So in those circumstances, what do you do? Well, the answer what you do is you just switch from asset to asset and stop looking at everything in the one asset class. You
Hmm.
know. So if you say, I'm going to take a 5 year, a 10 year, and a 20 year, and a 25 year view, and I'm only going to get interested in things that are making 5 year lows, or 10 year lows, or 20 year lows, or 50 year lows. If things are making lows in those huge long terms, then I'm going to get interested. But you know what? I'm not interested. So then that involves me saying something, which might sound ridiculous, like the entire stock market doesn't interest me. you know, Everything doesn't interest me. Why? They're too high to buy. Well, okay, Norman, why don't you sell them? Well, I could sell them, but there's only one reason why they're up there. It's because a bunch of pirates are running the ship. And I'm not one of the pirates, therefore I'll be the one that go off the plank, and they'll be the ones that are laughing.
Yep.
So I merely acknowledge that reality, and I say, no, no, don't go there. Just wait and watch, and start sniffing around something else that is making 20-year lows, or 5 year lows, or 10-year lows. But if
Hmm.
it's a 5 year low, I'm interested in 2.5 year pullback, or a 5 year pullback. If it's a 20-year low, I'm interested in kind of like running it for longer.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the way I'm thinking.
That's not a bad perspective. I mean, you've been doing this for a while, obviously. I've always been more of the wait till it crashes and then play vulture capitalists and come in and pick pick things up like CAR for pennies on the dollar and then it rides up to $5, $6, and you get out. You know, I haven't bought any stock since 2000 February of since about February to about February, March, April, about April of 2009. As far as with my individual account, I, I haven't bought anything since then. Just full disclosure for everybody that's listening.
Yeah, but
Um,
the real sad thing is the people who bought this stuff so high that they're waiting for it to get back. They're underwater still. And I
yeah,
think a lot of
yeah.
a lot of people who had the sense to keep buying as it went down, they're probably not underwater now or breaking even now.
Hmm.
But people who bought at the top and then got frightened and didn't buy when it got lower, they're still underwater.
Hmm.
As is anybody now. For instance, I'm underwater personally on property. Our house value has greatly declined.
Yeah. Well,
And
housing is. I think housing. Just on a quick side note, I think that has to do more with Western population decline. I think it's going to
well,
get a little bit worse.
population decline. Yeah. Now, if there's fewer kids, there's fewer heads to buy new houses.
Yep.
That is the underlying cause why these politicians want lots of immigration.
Yep. Because they want to see assets rise. They.
They just want fresh heads in there to pay tax,
Yep.
and they're just too dumb to consider that these particular fresh heads they're inviting in are not going to be interested in paying tax. They're going to be more interested in collecting welfare.
Yeah.
So the politicians are making it worse
Yeah.
while thinking that this is the cure. But then they've always been as dumb as a bunch of rocks, like so. Why should we
Well,
expect any different?
and they're killing the next generation because, like any other stock market or any healthy ecosystem, there's a crash.
Well, the next generation is going to kill them. Like this is the way it works.
Yeah.
So, this could be unpleasant. But
Yeah.
we're not talking about. Everyone's thinking that this is like a kind of like a small thing. This is not a small thing. If you go back on interest rates, you got to go back 300 years to get an event like we're in. And if you go back 300 years, what was happening? The answer is the Napoleonic Wars were happening. That's when
Hmm.
interest rates were this low. And in the Napoleonic Wars, there was like, I don't know, was it 5 nations got together as allies
Hmm.
to beat the crap out of Napoleon?
Hmm.
Okay, so we're talking something bigger than World War II,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And people just they haven't got their heads wrapped around this, around how big this is and how long this will take. That is the time the central banks were born, when the Rothschilds and was it the Warburgs? No, Rothschild and the other name begins with a C. Forgets it's out of my mind at the moment. But basically, essentially, two big banks. Rothschild was one. Essentially, lent the money to finance the Britain and the Napoleonic Wars. So we're actually looking at the central bank cycle coming back again.
Hmm.
And everyone's sort of saying we don't like what the central banks are doing, but that's only the gold bugs. Everyone else is saying these central bank guys are brilliant. The world would have gone down the toilet if the central bank guys hadn't saved us. They are deities. They're wonderful. Okay, so what's going to happen when they prove to be less than wonderful is going to be the end of this stage of the central bank cycle. But it. I don't know how bad this gets. And I'll tell you one thing: it's a long, long swing in it. You know,
Wow.
it's hard to describe what I have in my mind for it, but a business cycle is probably the shortest cycle that has size, and it's probably about 3 or 4 years in length.
Hmm.
Okay, and usually you start at a low and you end at a low in a business cycle, and so so you split that and you say 2 years going up, 2 years going down. Really roughly, let's not get fancy about it. It's not quite.
Yeah.
But if you say that the basic unit of the market in the long term is 2 year swings, okay, up for two, down for two, up for two, down for two. Now it's just a question of are the lows higher or are the highs lower? But if you sort of say, oh, at rough and ready, I'm thinking 2 years between these, significant periods. Well, then we're talking about something so big that the saw teeth are, let's say, 150 years comprised of 2 year swings, half of which will be directional in one direction or the other. So picture 75 two-year periods going in one direction and 75 two-year periods going half the distance in the other direction. And you got yourself some massive swing, and that's not going to just change markets. That's going to change every damn thing you can think of.
Mm.
You know, I mean, that's going to be the thing that'll time life moving off Earth onto Mars or something. It's just so colossal; it's hard to envisage.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, 75, 75, 75, 75. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
very easy to show. If you take the if you go to any of the IMF publications, you'll find that the central bankers are working on the basis that things now are similar to what they were 35 to 37 years ago.
hmm
This is their best information. They're working on what it was like 35, 37 years ago to now. So if you go back, I don't know, just take 2016. I mean, just I don't know, we're not on
You're
the low
talking
here.
about, yeah, you're talking about,
Say 37. They're thinking this is something like the late 1970s.
yeah,
1979, 1980. That was the end of a bear market. Market had been going sideways for a decade or more.
I was just
People were
born.
marching in the streets. Maggie Thatcher was about to come to power. The government in Britain was failing. British steel was closing down. British coal was closing down. What do you
hmm
see now? You see steel hitting lows. What do you see happening to the price of coal now?
hmm It's,
Precisely the same shit going down now as it was going down 37 years ago. Go back another 37 years from 1979, um, and we're looking at the 30s and 42. Okay,
yeah.
we were getting into World War Two. Um, Once again, it was. They say the World War was the end of the Great Depression. No, it was just depression fought with guns. Um, you know, what's the difference between marching on the streets in 1970s and protesting to the government, race riots, black emancipation, and go back to the 1940s and women's emancipation? Why? Because the women were being given jobs, men's jobs, while the men were off fighting. So 37 years ago, blacks were getting equality. 37 years before that, women were getting equality. They were all supposed to be made equal in law long before that, but those are the times in the past when it actually happened. And here we are again. And what do we have? We have people starting to march the streets again. We have people starting to shoot at the people marching the streets, as in Oregon and a few other places. So now protests are more than protests. Protests are things to be shot at. You know. So yeah, but that hasn't happened in 30 years. You
yeah.
have to go back 35 years. Yeah, they were doing it then. They were shooting at students. Why? Because they were going to turn life upside down if they were allowed to get what they wanted. These students were commies or whatever. They were going to end life as we know it. No, they weren't. They were just students protesting injustice. But it was worth firing lead at them.
Yeah.
So, here we are again. Central bankers are looking at 37 years ago. I've just suggested to you that you can look 37 years back and 37 years before that, and you can actually see the same stuff going down. And that tells you what's happening next year and the year after and the year after that. What happened after 1942? America went into a world war. Well, we'll see what happens this time around.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not identical.
No,
America
it's
was the
not
new power.
identical.
America was the new power going into a world war. So what would be the new power now? In a modern context, the new power would not be America, unless America is going to be the new power again, which could be, but the new power would be Russia or China.
More like a conglomerate working together.
Well, 300 years ago on the interest rate cycle, it was a conglomerate working together.
Yeah. I think that's more than likely what everybody's would. Personally, I would think that that's what more than likely be a conglomerate.
And the economists will turn around and they will say that all the fighting ended the depression and look how things work. And it won't be the case. All it'll be is monetary inflation will be devaluing the value of the money, and the stocks will actually be going sideways if you look at them inflation adjusted. But they'll appear to be going up on a chart because the money is going down. But if you put your money in stocks for the next 5 years, the stocks could go scorching up, and you could say, "Wow, I made a load of money," and the government will come along saying, "You owe us capital gains tax, mate." But then you go out, and what you're left with buys you less than when you started. You go, "What was the point of doing all that?" But most people won't work it out.
Yeah, no, that's
Now, if you want to
interesting.
see that, you want to see that in charts. If you go to macrotrends.net, I think it's macro trends.
Yeah, I've heard of macro trends.
Yeah,
I've heard of
they show the stock market detrended. And if you go to macro trends, you can actually typically see you can see the stock market with the CPI stripped out of it.
Okay. Let me ask you this: what do you think about the gold debit cards, silver debit cards? What do you think about those?
Um,
Now, have you ever used one? Just curious.
no, I mean I could get one all right.
Yeah, they're not hard to get anymore. They're actually pretty easy.
You know, I have to say it sounds like an interesting idea, but
Hmm.
it's just a marketing gimmick. I mean, I don't want more ways to spend money.
Yeah,
I want less ways to spend money.
that's true. I've been kind of racking my mind back and forth on some of those. I'm actually I'm looking at. I think it serves a niche purpose for what I do is to use it
Well, that's
as an
okay. What's
account.
about um what's it? Bitgold are doing one.
Yeah, Bitgold is
I think
actually
Peter
one of.
Schiff's crowd. Don't Peter Schiff's crowd do one?
I think he does one too, but I think that I think he uses Bitgold if I remember right. That might be
See,
his deal.
Pacific something. I don't know. But anyway, I know that he's had a gold credit card or debit card or something. Bitgold do it. I think someone else is talking about one as well. Sure, somebody's heard.
Well, I know Texas is working on one.
Are they?
Yeah, the state of Texas, they're going to start building they're taking information on where how they want to build the depository, but there's only the guy who actually helped put it together. His ideas and what they're looking to do with it is actually they'll get to a debit card once they get it built and they take in. And they just need to get a facility built in Texas that they can get tied in with the COMEX for liquidity for the university, the endowment, because they've the
Hmm.
one that's got the biggest gold deposits, who are willing to put it in there.
Yeah.
So
Put Larry Summers in charge of minding that endowment, and then you won't have to worry about it anymore. Was it Harvard that he made their endowment go away, or halved it, or something like that?
yeah, no, they better stay
I can
away
tell you
from
one
him.
thing. If you look up his page on Wikipedia, you'll find that it's conspicuously absent on what happened to the endowment fund money while he was managing it. One of the, one of the little paragraphs that just doesn't seem to be there anymore. But anyway, we put him in charge of the country.
That man should be drug out in the street like Garfield said.
Yeah. I don't know if you Google, would it even be Google or would it be stripped out of Google? There's an interesting question.
Will it be erased from history?
Larry Summers. Let's go. I don't know what we say. College endowment.
Yeah. No, but yeah, what I was saying about Bitcoin, I think it's a possibility, at least for me,
Okay.
to be
What a
used
search
as.
engine? We'll use Google for choice. Choice of search engine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Reuters. How Larry Summers lost Harvard $1.8 billion. Well, Reuters do it. Harvard ignored warnings about investments. Okay. The inside story of its finance meltdown. Forbes, Reuters, Forbes, theboston.com. Okay, so if we go to Harvard, anyway, it's you would imagine that sort of losing $1.8 billion would be a noteworthy achievement, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Bet
yeah,
you,
yeah.
bet you it's still not in his Wikipedia page.
What I don't understand, what I don't get about, what I don't understand is, well, actually, I think I understand it, but just from a layman's perspective, how does somebody lose 1.8 billion in gold? That don't make no sense. It's
Start by being an economist.
Yeah, it's a physical asset. Where's it at?
Economists are terrible traders, and that's why they try to manage. That's why they try to coerce the market.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
even what's his name? Keynes was supposed to be a genius. He tried trading and he lost all his money. And then what did he do? He developed a philosophy of economics that involved the government controlling the markets. This is an example of someone who kind of they try one way, they can't manage it, and then they try another way.
And they
You
just
know,
keep going, going and going and going.
so there's
So,
no. I don't see it in on Larry Summers's page. Career service for Clinton's president of Harvard.
mm,
It just doesn't seem to. This doesn't seem to be there for some reason. Anyway,
that's crazy. Larry Summers.
he
Also,
has a nice,
I mean, how do you lose that much gold? That don't make no sense. It's a physical asset. Where's it at? Who did you give it to, buddy?
I don't know. Was it in gold? Was it in gold? I don't think so. I think he was just on the wrong side of the market.
uh,
Yeah, I think it's just like. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know how he managed it.
yeah, no,
But
and they don't want him in charge of. I don't
with
think they
great
want
style,
him.
I think.
Great style. He lost 1 point. That's crazy, man. No, but I think that they're gonna eventually they'll get to the state of Texas will get to one as well. I think that that's it's probably 10 to 15 years away, but as far as issuing, I think it may be sooner, 5 years. I mean, it doesn't take much to issue debit cards anymore, but I think it has a purpose in where I could use it to um, lower my if whatever.
Technically, it means you have less cash in your current account.
Correct.
Okay. So if cash is devaluing as the days go by, as the weeks and months go by,
Hmm.
then you have less cash devaluing. Your money is in a hard asset in your current account.
Correct.
Now, provided you're working with a crowd that don't charge for storage, if you're charged for storage, then the same applies. Your asset is depreciating day by day. So
Correct.
if you have gold in bullion vault or gold in gold money or gold in any of these crowds, and they're charging you X percentage for storage,
Hmm.
then it's the same as having it in the dollar or the Mexican peso or you
Yeah.
know the Russian ruble, which is declining in value. So it depends on how you do it. Now,
I
it
don't think
does appear
BitGo has a storage
it does
limit.
appear that BitGold do it for very low transaction costs
Yeah.
and no storage.
Correct. They're making
Yeah,
their money off of when you use the card, a transaction fee. Yeah.
yeah. So how will that work out? The answer is I'm not sure, but it's a new business model. Um, I think there are members of the Soros family invested in that one, uh, but old information doesn't necessarily still be valid.
Hmm.
Probably do. But anyway, that's so like I'm reluctant to get into anything that there's a big turnstile cash register on the fitted on the system.
Hmm.
But then isn't that what they're trying to do by going for a cashless economy?
Yeah, they're already working on that. I mean, it's already here. It just hasn't been fully enveloped yet. Um,
Yeah, like cash is less than 2% of everything. The rest of it's all credit cards and debit cards.
Yeah, so it's already here. It's just a matter of what's. I mean, I think Mark Dice did a video showing he was out there getting people to sign to just totally ban it, and they were signing. I'm surprised there wasn't a line around the docks out there.
Yeah. Well, do you remember that story about the Apple phones and the way the FBI wanted to be able to crack the Apple phone of that so-called criminal, and they couldn't get
Yeah,
into his phone because it's encrypted, and bullshit stories this and bullshit story that. And bottom line is, if they're not hacking the phones already, it's just a problem. What they really wanted Apple to do was give them the key to all the phones,
yeah,
and
that's what they want.
Apple said they didn't. Okay, now reserve judgment on whether they did or didn't, but they said they didn't.
Hmm.
And then subsequently, someone gave them the password, and they opened up the phone and they got it. But the point is, they can crack any single phone, no problem. Once you have the phone, you have the operating system, you have the microchip. McAfee, the guy who produces the virus checking software,
Yeah.
um, he said, "Just give me the phone, and I'll give it back to you in a couple of hours with the phone opened," and they refused to do it. So essentially, he exposed them as being the liars they were.
Yeah, I've
What they
seen that.
what they wanted was they wanted access to everybody's phones without having to use algorithm cracking. You see, uh,
Because it takes
cracking
time.
cracking encryption takes time and it costs money. If
Yeah.
they set all their fancy computers that they want bugging everyone's phones and cracking everyone's phones for every transaction that's encrypted, then they'll have to cover the world with computers to do the code cracking. So and while they create these stories about we'll get quantum computers and we'll crack infinite phones in kind of point zero 0.01 seconds, my reaction is, yeah, sure, show me when you get it. Meanwhile, bugger off. Now, the reality of this was, and Obama let it out in a sharp reply to a question. Somebody asked me a question about phones, and in an aside, in other words, it wasn't scripted. Okay, normally he's always talking off the prepared script, but it was in a question and answers, and in an aside, he made the short response that if the government doesn't have access, then everyone's walking around with a Swiss bank account in their pocket. So that's it. That's the answer. In a world of digital money, if they can't crack your phone easily, quickly, and totally, then you don't have to pay your tax.
Yeah.
So what they're admitting the advantage of what do you call it, Bitcoin, and they're essentially trying to end run around it with their digital currency. But they know that if they produce digital currency, people can sort of say, well, we'll use this other digital currency as well as your digital currency, but the other digital currency will be private. We won't declare it. So essentially, they're looking at a situation whereas they have digital cash for the future, their version.
Yeah.
They know people can produce alternative digital cash substitutes, and unless they can get into the phones totally easily and en masse, then, to quote Obama, everyone's running around with a Swiss bank account in their pocket. And this is the problem. So this is going to be an interesting one because no matter what they do with the phones, people are going to be able to reverse engineer their phones.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember back in part of I think I've always suspected that part of the reason why Apple failed in the beginning was is because they weren't cooperating. They weren't working. They kind of did a system that where they weren't as more forthcoming and trying to provide their platform as a
Well, they're looking at declining sales in the West, and they're looking at about a gazillion people growing up in the East who will say, "Hey, those phones are hacked. No thanks. I'll get my Chinese copy, which is not hacked."
Yeah.
And why would someone in Asia or Indonesia, Malaysia, wherever, why would they want to buy a hacked phone from the West if unhacked phones are available from the East or technology of any sort? So the idea that we won't be able to use encrypted technology in the future is ridiculous because we're always going to be able to get it from the other sovereign.
Yeah.
The other sovereign will always supply.
A
You
demand.
know what I mean? The other side.
Yeah.
Now what you're looking at is you can actually predict with 100% certainty that the use of encryption is going to be banned.
I don't think you can ban it because someone can create it right there in their. I mean, I can create an encryption code right here at my computer. Was it
So
going to turn on the
what
computer?
they're working on right now is creating a system where they can force global acceptance of the idea that encryption is bad. And
Yeah.
you know what? They've gone a long way down the road of disproving that before they started to try and prove it.
Yeah. Yeah. They really have. Because
So this is a problem for them.
yeah, it's about dominate. They're trying to dominate a market and a currency. Because I mean, the digital currency is already here. It's in many formats already. I mean, it's basically here for the most part. Um,
Siren, I was going to ask you something about those coins you were showing the other day. I meant to post a reply on your post and I didn't. Oh, what was it? Which one was it? Gone for the moment. Um, There was one I replied, and then essentially it was the one you did about new silver uh, acquisitions. Was that Libertads? Because I didn't get to see it. It was Libertads, was it? Yeah. Were they proofs? Yeah, brilliant uncirculated, so yeah. Hmm. No, I didn't. Not this year. I probably should have. Kind of the month went by without really. You see, I was watching them coming out in a few different alternatives. You know, substitute 5 coin sets, sort of, and the wait is long. Yeah, I have to say, I love the 5 ounce version. How about those? Did anybody get those golden dimes? 10. Oh, very nice. You must have been in quick. You put in for 30. You reckon so? Well, they pretty well disappeared into collectors' little collections already, haven't they? Well, what are they doing? Are they producing one of everything in gold? Is that what they're doing? Half ounce. So they'll be short button jobs. Oh, 0.1 ounce. That's 1.5 grams, is it? Mm. Well, 1/10. It's not too tiny. No, it's reasonable. Fair enough. So did you receive them? They actually arrived, did they? The dimes. Oh, they're still in the pipeline. They sold out on Thursday as well, I believe. Oh, that was what I heard. I'm less clued in than you. Ah, so more to be released, or some to find their way into the hands of other dealers or something, agents or something like that. Yeah. So 50 available for 50 grand in AppMax next week. I would think long or short term. I would say so. Yeah. Unless they start making a production run every year of them or something. Are they bound by that mintage, by the way, or is it, did they play with the wording? No, do you mean they're not the bound more or less? Oh well then, bit like the Mexican mint. Gotcha. What's wrong with the 50 for 50? So they doubled the mintage. Hmm. And you think I'm wrong in sort of saying, hey, gold dust is attractive? Vintage by Mother Nature, 20 billion. Bye to the viewers. Are there many on the outside channel? I didn't log into YouTube, to be honest.
Uh, they got an article on Zero Hedge saying that Goldman Sachs believes that the yen will collapse in 12 months.
Goldman Sachs, yeah. Well, the yen is actually rising at the moment. No.